going to be demonstrating the Symbolic digital photogram. Here I have collected different items from around my home, representing different parts of my identity that I wanted to symbolize in my photogram. I specifically chose objects that vary in size and shape to provide some variety. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up a light underneath my objects to remove any shadows. Removing the shadows creates a more realistic replication of a photogram. So here I start to experiment with my composition, organizing the objects and experimenting with my exposure. You may also notice that I have reformatted the composition of the image so that it is a square rather than a rectangle. So instead of the 4:3 ratio, I went for the 1:1. I did this because the cyanotype prints, which we'll be doing next, are a 6x6 square, so to get familiar with that format. I also recommend taking your images in black and white. So as you can see here, I'm using green black and white construction paper, but in the black and white settings, it is black, gray, and white. So shooting in black and white allows you the opportunity to see what your colors will look like, considering the tonal values rather than the vivid colors. So here I am experimenting with the background. So instead of using a plain colored piece of construction paper, I am using a scarf with stripes in different colors. So again, when you see the image in color, you can see the nice color variation. But what I'll be doing is changing that into a black and white image so that I can see the tonal values of the colors. So in order to change the image from color to black and white, you do need to be able to adjust your filters. So in the photos on your camera, you can usually change it to mono or black and white. Mono meaning monochromatic or one color. Again, using the camera exposure meter, you can also adjust your exposures to heighten the shadows or accentuate the highlights. That's going to create a different visual effect and provide you with some variety to choose from when you select your final image. So now that I've completed my photo shoot, I am now proceeding on to editing the image. So the first thing that I did was to use the application Snapseed. Snapseed is for photo editing, and they have a lot of different tools that you can edit with in their tool menu. So the first thing I adjust in most of my images is the exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows, which can be found in Snapseed in the Tune Image option. I also rotate the image because it was upside down, and then I adjusted the curves. The curves is allowing me to invert the image, so making it a negative rather than a positive. The negative image changes the shadows to highlights and the highlights to shadows, which is the visual appearance that you achieve with a photogram. I, of course, continue to adjust exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows after I have inverted the image. To adjust the curves, you move the corners of the graph lines, so grabbing the top corners and moving them down, or you go to the bottom corner and you move it upwards. That's going to invert your image. You can, of course, experiment with the curves of the image to create different contrasts and effects in your final photogram replication. So I edited and inverted a couple of options. So once I've completed my editing, the next step was exporting the image. So once you have completed your editing in snap speed, you then have to save the image. So when you modify it, you want to save those modifications. And you usually do that just by exporting it or saving the image. So again, you just go to Export, select Save, and then Allow Modification. So allow Modify, and it'll save it to your photo library. So I wanted to show you how I organize my phone so that I have easy access to all the apps I use for this course. So easily access to my camera, to focus, to snap speed, layout, Google Drive, Google Photos, and slides. So again, once you save your image, you then have to move it into your Google Drive or do any other modifications. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my photogram, my final images, into a tile, which is similar to a collage, except it's more organized and orderly. So I'm going to use Layout, which is another app, to organize my images. So it's a tile collage of photograms. So just creating another type of image rather than it just being a single photogram. I'm creating a block of photograms just to enhance the design. So what I want to do is I want to create a checkerboard type of pattern with light and dark exposures, so including one dark exposure and one bright inverted exposure. So I am duplicating each image, both my negative and my positive images, so that I have two of each, and then I am organizing them in my layout so it creates a checkerboard pattern, and then just flipping them and mirroring them to connect the shapes together to create a pattern. So now that I have my final symbolic photogram design, the last step, of course, is to save it in my Google Drive and upload it to the template, include all of my information